This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
لدى الشرطة بعض المعلومات لكنها غير مؤكدة فالأخبار القادمة من باكستان عن حقيقة مقتل زعيم طالبان.
According to unconfirmed police reports, 2 days ago an airstrike may have killed the Pakistani Taliban chief Baytullah Mehsud, along with his second wife and bodyguards in the village of Naragosi.
وحراسه في هجوم صاروخي أول أمس على قرية ناراغوسي.
However, Taliban leaders in Pakistan have not confirmed his death. Fahima Mazini reports.
بوصفه رجل تنظيم القاعدة الأول في باكستان الذي تمكن من
He is being described as Al-Qaeda's commander-in-chief in Pakistan. Baytullah Mehsud is credited for uniting the Taliban and moving it forward. Mehsud's death, if confirmed, would be a major defeat to the Taliban movement in Pakistan. It would also be a security coup for Pakistan.
Mehsud's death means that the days of his group are numbered. Today, I urge his fighters to turn their lives around and start to serve Islam and Pakistan, a country that gave them safe haven.
مقاتلو محسود في شمال غرب باكستان ينتمون إلى نحو 13.
Taliban fighters in Pakistan's northwest regions are affiliated with nearly 13 factions, with Mehsud becoming the movement's top commander in late 2007. Mehsud led a violent campaign of suicide attacks inside Pakistan and along the border strip with Afghanistan.
وهو متهم كذلك بالضلوع في اغتيال رئيسة الوزراء السابقة بنظير بوتو.
He is suspected of involvement in the killing of former Pakistani Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto. At this hour, Mehsud's death is still a mystery. His death was not confirmed by the Pakistani police and was dismissed by the Taliban. According to unconfirmed police reports, Mehsud was killed along with his second wife in a U.S. airstrike on the home of Mehsud's father-in-law in the village of Naragosi, south of Waziristan.
خاصة والمخابرات الباكستانية تتحدث عن اجتماع قريب.
Meanwhile, a Pakistani intelligence source has confirmed that the Taliban is planning a meeting in a secret place in order to elect a successor for Mehsud from a list of 3 candidates. They are Athamatullah, Wali Rahman, and frontrunner Hakimullah Mehsud, who is Baytullah Mehsud's official spokesman and a relative of his.
بيت محسود والناطق الرسمي باسمه.
U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton promised to provide strong support to the Somali government in Mogadishu. Clinton held a press conference with the Somali president, Sheikh Sharif Ahmed, in Nairobi. She said at the conference that Eritrea's interference with Somali affairs was unacceptable and threatened to take measures against Eritrea if it did not stop supporting al-Shabaab, which she described as a terrorist group. Our correspondent in Nairobi, Fahid Yassin, followed the conferences between the American Secretary of State and Sheikh Sharif.
The Somali president received strong support from the U.S. administration to confront the Islamic Party and al-Shabaab. Sheikh Sharif, who used to consider Washington an enemy of Somalia and Muslims, described his meeting with the American Secretary of State as a good opportunity for the Somali people. The religion of Islam is a religion of forgiveness. It should not be used in a way that displaces people and leads to more problems. As you all know, those who behead people and consider anyone who disagrees with them an infidel believe they will go to heaven.
من جانبها دعت هيلاري كلينتون الدول العربية.
Hillary Clinton called for the Arab nations to support the Djibouti agreement. She promised the Somali government more financial and political aid, as well as more support in training its military forces. She also called on Eritrea to stop interfering with Somalia's affairs and threatened that the U.S. would take measures against Eritrea if it continued to support al-Shabaab, which she described as a terrorist group.
We are making it very clear that their actions are unacceptable. We intend to take action if they do not stop. There is also no doubt that al-Shabaab wants to gain control of Somalia in order to use it as a base from which to influence and even infiltrate surrounding countries.
مصافحة الرئيس الصومالي يدا بيد إلى كلينتون تعتبر المرة الأولى التي يظهر فيها.
The Somali president shook hands with Clinton, which was considered his first public handshake with a woman. He was against such acts when he was the leader of the Islamic courts. Does this mean that he has become more polite so as not to embarrass the Secretary of State by refusing to shake her hand? Some Somali refugees living in the Isli neighborhood of the Kenyan capital have high hopes about U.S. support for settling conflicts among the country's authorities. Others disagree, saying that it's nothing different from their solution to the impasse in Somalia.
إنه لا جديد فيما يتعلق بحل المعضلة الصومالية.
I think that this meeting raises our hopes. Sheikh Sharif is an honest man, and we think this meeting will have positive effects on the ground.
This meeting brings no benefits. Obama has not delivered all that he promised in his campaign. These meetings are just like all the other meetings that the U.S. held with whomever it wanted, which ended without any tangible results.
Is the good relationship between the current U.S. administration and Somali president a step towards providing full support to the transitional government? Or is it just a brief encounter between the two officials? The days to come will answer that question. Fahid Yassin, Al Jazeera, Nairobi.
On the other hand, the Eritrean Minister of Information, Ali Abdu Ahmed, said that his government wouldn't stop supporting the Somali people. He indicated that the Eritrean government will increase that support. In a conversation with Al Jazeera, Ali Abdu Ahmed called on the U.S. to distance itself from intervening with Somali internal affairs.
A new picture of Baghdad streets has been painted in the minds of the Iraqi people. This comes after a government decision to remove concrete barriers from Baghdad streets, which has ended a nightmare that has lasted 6 years. Reactions to the decision to remove concrete barriers from Baghdad in the following report.
Finally, the concrete barriers will be removed from the sight of the people of Baghdad. The Iraqi Prime Minister Noor al-Maliki ordered that the removal of the concrete barriers from the main and side streets of Baghdad be completed within 40 days. The Iraqi people expressed their joy at the decision, but raised some questions about the fate of these concrete barriers.
Where are they going to take them? They built them using our money. Where are they going to take them, and how are they going to benefit from them?
Let them take them wherever they want, to the desert, to the beach, whatever.
The decision will likely cause political disagreements as elections are just around the corner. These concrete barriers were used by politicians as billboards for election advertisements. However, these politicians will find thousands of other alternatives to publicize their campaign.
Man, don't even worry about the politicians. They even post their ads on our homes.
Away from politics and close to the Iraqi streets where people suffer the most from these barriers, it is ironic to find some residents who support the decision and express disappointment over the removal of these barriers.
We will miss them because we've grown up with them. Where are they going to take them? We used to visit them once a month.
The concrete barriers have been around for a long time. It's going to feel different now they are gone.
These concrete barriers have been present in Baghdad for years, and now the major challenge is how the residents will adapt to the new roadmap of the Iraqi capital. The public transportation agency may have to install maps and mount signs to make it easier for people to direct themselves through the streets. Majid Abdul Qadir, Al-Arabiya, Baghdad.
دعت نقابة المحامين إلى الوقف الفوري لما أسمتها ممارسة التعذيب التي تطال العراقيين المعتقلين
The Lawyers Guild called for an immediate end to what they called the torture of Iraqis who have been detained by security agencies. The Guild said that the use of torture violates the Constitution, international law, and treaties. The head of the Lawyers Guild, Dia Saadi, released a statement today saying that the use of torture should not become a common tactic used to obtain confessions, and that this unconstitutional practice will have dangerous consequences. In many cases, torture, which violates human rights, leads to the prisoner's death or leaves him with permanent disabilities. The Lawyers Guild is legally required to take daring and clear positions to end the practice of torturing detainees.
تفرض عليها التصدي الحازم والجريء لظاهرة تعذيب المعتقلين. التقى الدكتور شوان محمد عزيز وزير حقوق الإنسان في حكومة إقليم كردستان.
Meanwhile, Dr. Shwan Muhammad Aziz, the Minister of Human Rights, met with Dahar Bounidal, the head of the Human Rights Office in the Kurdish region of Iraq. During the meeting, it was mentioned that an Iraqi delegation is visiting Geneva to submit a special report on Iraq. The delegation includes a representative from the Human Rights Ministry from the Kurdish region who will review the report on human rights in Iraq that will be submitted. The two sides reiterated the importance of cooperation and coordination so that the report on human rights in Iraq will be incorporated into the 2010 UN report on human rights.
يتضمن أوضاع حقوق الإنسان في العالم. ما زال مصير الصحوات متأرجحا.
The fate of the Awakening, or Sahwa Council, is still uncertain due to the Iraqi government's delay of fulfilling its promises to employ as Sahwa Council members in the Security and Defense Ministries as well as other ministries. Not to mention that members of the Awakening Council are subjected to assassinations and arrests every day.
A group of Awakening Council leaders demanded that the Iraqi government complete the process of integrating the Awakening Council members into civic and security agencies before the end of 2009. Awakening Council leaders believe that the government is acting too slowly in completing the process and exaggerates the numbers of those who've been integrated. They believe that a lack of funds is a major reason why this project is still incomplete, and that the government must resolve the issue by integrating the Awakening Council members into the security forces and civic agencies before the end of the year. Awakening Council leaders are concerned that the government won't stay in office long enough to implement the agreement that it has made with them. They are worried because the delay of the integration of the Awakening Council will lead to future problems, especially when considering that the formation of the new government that will emerge after the 2010 elections will take months. This means that the Awakening Council members will be deprived of their salaries for months if they are not completely integrated into security and civic agencies. The Pentagon has warned about this issue, saying that the Iraqi government is moving too slowly in finding jobs for thousands of armed men from the Awakening Council, which may threaten the security gains that have been achieved, especially when considering the U.S. is preparing to withdraw from Iraq. The Pentagon submitted a report to the Congress saying that the government of Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki has not fulfilled its promises of integrating the Awakening Council, or what is known among American military officials as the Sons of Iraq, into the Iraqi security forces and civic agencies. The report, which was titled Evaluating Stability and Security in Iraq, said that the slow process of integrating the armed men may undermine Iraqi confidence in the government. And if this is not changed, the security achievements might be lost. The Iraqi government took over responsibility of the Awakening Councils in the middle of 2008, but it stopped paying their salaries in the beginning of 2009. This issue caused a long debate before an agreement was reached with the Executive Committee, which was in charge of the National Reconciliation Project a month ago. The agreement called for allocating a fixed budget for the salaries of the Awakening Council members until the end of 2009, which is the deadline for integrating them into security and civic agencies. The government's recent decision to arrest a number of Awakening Council members casts doubt on the government's position towards the Awakening Council. This comes as many of them continue to be assassinated, which has had negative effects on the situation and may bring Iraq back to square one.
In the second fatal IDF accident in under a week, a Golani soldier was killed overnight when hit by a bullet accidentally fired from the Galil rifle of a fellow soldier. 20-year-old Sergeant Haddad of Beit Dagan was critically injured in the back and airlifted to Zib Hospital in Safat, where he died shortly after arrival. Sergeant Haddad was laid to rest at noon today in the military cemetery in Rishon LeZion. The Army is investigating the accident, which occurred over the course of maneuvers on the Golan Heights. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today held special consultations with a small group of top ministers and leaders of the intelligence and security communities. Participants were given intelligence briefings regarding sensitive security issues.
The Zaytun Center for Legal Study and Consultations has released a report that points to a high level of security cooperation between Abbas's security agency and the Zionist occupation in the West Bank. However, the report cited the blatant consequences of the security cooperation on the Palestinian situation, focusing on the role of the American General Keith Dayton in training Abbas's security forces to eliminate the resistance.
As hostility and antagonism between Abbas's security agency and the Zionist occupation in the occupied West Bank disappears, they are replaced with confidence and public cooperation. The security coordination aims at eliminating the military wings of the resistance. Meanwhile, a strategic report has outlined 3 possibilities for the future of security coordination between Abbas's security agency and the Zionist occupation in the West Bank. These are the 3 scenarios. End the arrests while continuing American General Keith Dayton's task of overseeing the coordination of Abbas's security agency and the occupation forces. Stopping the security coordination as a precondition for paving the way for an agreement with Hamas to conduct presidential and legislative elections, or the continuation of security coordination, which is considered to be a political necessity for Mahmoud Abbas and would solidify the divisions between the West Bank and Gaza. The report brings back memories of the Oslo Agreement, which reduced the role of Abbas's security agencies to protectors of the Zionist occupation, as well as bound the PA to the roadmap through fighting the resistance and targeting its infrastructure. The latest confrontation between Abbas's security forces and the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade in Qalqilia is the most important testimony to the report, which sheds light on the role of the agency and its agenda.
Far from the political stories and divisions among Fatah members, Fatah's 6th Congress has given cadres an opportunity to return to Palestine after decades of exile. Layla al-Zorob, who left when she was 2 years old, has returned at age 60. Muhammad al-Laham with more details about her story.
Layla Zorob left Palestine when she was 2 years old and has returned at age 60 to experience happiness and shock. In Palestine, she was motivated to join the revolution. Between Layla's exile and her first return, southern Lebanon was her destination. The besieged Beirut was shelter, and the massacres of Sabra and Shatila were transitional hubs. Now the 6th Fatah Congress is an opportunity to visit the homeland.
All of the struggles that we endured were for the sake of returning to Palestine, to all of Palestine. However, we thank God that we've seen even a piece of Palestinian land.
Laila Zarob was known as a freedom fighter who specialized in writing messages to the families and close relatives of the revolutionaries. She carried the secrets and feelings of war and love to and from the revolutionary fighters, from southern Lebanon to Beirut, before she roamed the world and eventually ended up in Palestine. She was racing the wind, carrying packages of letters to the revolutionaries on the line of fire, and today she walks through the alleys of Bethlehem and Palestinian cities, reconciling the present with the past. However, she may not find much of what was written in those words in these alleyways.
Telephones weren't available. We used to go visit and sit with the revolutionaries. We would ask them what they wanted. Sometimes they wanted a letter sent to their sister or mother. I'd write it for them and bring it back to Beirut with me and mail it.
Laila stands with a known Palestinian comrade. This is Khaled Abu Isba, a colleague of Dalal al-Mughrabi, who led the coast operation in Tel Aviv. Here she is speaking to General Ismail Jabbar, who was a leader of Fatah's troops in southern Lebanon. This is Sultan Abu Inayin, a comrade. These are the faces of the revolution and have long endured the days of absence and the exile.
If we got an opportunity to live here, we would, even though it's under occupation. At least we'd be living on our land, among our people.
Laila is participating in Fatah's 6th Congress, and she will leave after a few days with the constant hope of returning. Laila Zarob returns after 60 years of revolution and exile to take a first-hand look at the words and letters of the past. Perhaps one day the promise of peace will become a reality. Hamad al-Laham from Fatah's 6th Congress, Bethlehem, Palestine.
More than 150 people were recently killed and injured in clashes between security forces and the Yemeni rebels. The secessionist movement has become more vocal about dividing Yemen. Will Yemen become a haven for militants? And why is the Obama administration ignoring this new hotspot in the Middle East? Answers to these questions and more on Link TV's Mosaic Intelligence Report.
With the recent obsession about the Iranian Velvet Revolution, the ongoing coverage of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, news from a country like Yemen seldom makes headlines in Western media, especially in the United States. In fact, even for reporters savvy in Yemeni politics and fluent in Arabic, accurate and unfiltered news about what's really going on inside Yemen is hard to unearth. This is due to the security apparatus of Yemeni President Ali Abdullah Saleh, which to a large extent has made it difficult for independent media outlets to access troubled areas like Abyan, East Aden, and Saada in northern Yemen. During the past several weeks, Yemen's vulnerability as a potential haven for militants has become evident as the country battles a Shiite rebellion in the north and a secessionist movement in the south. Most recently, Houthi rebels in northern Yemen seized a key control post on a strategic highway linking the capital Sana'a with Saudi Arabia, overcoming an army brigade after 12 hours of intense combat. Violent confrontations originally erupted between the Yemeni forces and the Houthis in 2004 when the government sought to quell a militant movement gaining popularity in Saada, then known as the Believing Youth. Its leader, Hussein al-Houthi, was killed during these confrontations, but instead of bringing a halt to the violence, al-Houthi's death contributed to the rebels' narrative that their distinct culture as followers of the Zaydi branch of Shiite Islam was under attack by Yemen's central government. This past July, more than 150 people were killed and injured in clashes between security forces and the Houthis in and around Saada. In an attempt to garner international support, the Yemeni government and state-controlled media tend to paint the Houthis as Islamic extremists with ties to Al-Qaeda. The government has accused the rebels of plotting to attack Western interests, kidnap foreign diplomats, and attack unveiled women. During the Bush administration, President Ali Abdullah Saleh would boast that the government's campaign against the Houthis was part of the global war on terrorism. Both these accusations are false. The Houthis were not involved in the kidnapping of foreigners, which was done mostly by tribes trying to extract services from the government, such as electricity or paved roads. And the Houthis, who are Shiite, are anti-Wahhabi and oppose Al-Qaeda. There are some indications, though, that the Houthis have been receiving arms and financial support from Iran, adding more complexity to the problem. Meanwhile, the Yemeni government has been accused of using excessive force in suppressing the rebellion, conducting mass arrests, cracking down on opposition parties suspected of supporting the rebellion, and imposing restrictions on the press from covering the events. Secessionist sentiments are also on the rise in the south. Southerners in Yemen have long complained that Northerners abuse the unity agreement by stealing their resources and discriminating against them. The south is home to most of Yemen's oil facilities.
Do not talk in the name of unity. There is no unity here.
The escalation of the Saada conflict could severely undermine the country and threaten its fragile unity. Yemen's stability also poses a key concern to Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil exporter and the United States' interest in the region. With the Obama administration shifting its focus from Iraq to Afghanistan, it may be ignoring what could potentially be the hottest spot in the Middle East, the country which is the ancestral place of Osama bin Laden. I'm Jamal Dajani for the Mosaic Intelligence Report. To learn more about this program or to share your thoughts, visit us at linktv.org/mir. You can also follow my updates on Twitter.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.